The night I understood I was actually homeless, I was sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot, counting coins in the dome light. $11.40. That was everything. And the thing nobody tells you is this. I climbed out of that car and into a real home, warm and dry and mine, for less than the cost of 1 month's rent. This is true. Every dollar, every mistake, every freezing night, it happened to me. And I remember all of it, because you do not forget the year you almost disappeared. By the end of this, I am going to show you the one discarded object, something people throw away every single day, that finally held when nothing else did. It cost me almost nothing. And if you have no money and no land and no one coming to save you, this was built for exactly that, for you. I want to go back to that parking lot, because there is a detail I have never told anyone. There was a receipt stuck to my windshield wiper, somebody else's receipt, blowing in the wind, and on it I could read that they had spent $84 on groceries. $84. I had 11, and I sat there and watched that little piece of paper flap back and forth, and I thought, that is the whole distance between having a life and not having one. A slip of paper. I did not cry. I was too tired to cry. I just turned off the dome light so the battery would not die, because that car battery was now the most valuable thing I owned. Let me tell you how I got there. Fast. Because the how is not the point. The climb is the point. I was 46 years old. I had worked my whole life. Then came a job loss, a medical bill I still do not fully understand, and 2 months of rent I could not make. My landlord was not cruel. He was just doing math, and the math said I had to go. So I put what I could into a 2004 sedan with 190,000 miles on it, and I drove to a parking lot, and that became my address. Now here's what I need you to understand about that first week, because this is where the shame almost killed me before the cold could. People look at you differently when they figure it out. A woman came out of that grocery store the third morning, and she saw me brushing my teeth using a water bottle, spitting into the storm drain, and the look on her face. She did not say anything. She did not have to. She pulled her kid a little closer and walked faster. That look told me I was now a problem to be avoided. Not a person. A problem. And I want to tell you something I learned that I wish I had known years earlier, because it changed everything about how I survived. That woman's contempt was not about me. It was fear. She was looking at how close she was to the same thing, and she hated me for being the mirror. The moment I understood that, I stopped shrinking. And I started planning, because sleeping in a car is not a life, it is a countdown. The engine idling for heat burns, fuel you cannot replace. The police tap on your window at 2 in the morning. Your back stops working right after about 10 nights folded into a seat. I knew the car was going to fail me, so I started looking for the next rung before I fell off the one I was on. And that is when I discovered the first thing that saved money, and it did not cost me a dime. There is a national network of overnight parking that truckers and traveling nurses and van lifers all use, and a lot of it is completely free and completely legal. Certain big retail chains have allowed overnight parking in their lots for decades, certain truck stops, certain casino lots out west. I learned to read which ones by watching where the RVs with the faded bumper stickers parked, because those people had been doing this for years, and they knew. That first free, legal, quiet night where nobody tapped my window, I slept 5 hours straight. 5 hours. I woke up and I felt almost human, and I thought, all right, there are rules to this. I can learn the rules. But therefore, a bigger problem arrived, and it arrived with the weather. It was late September when the temperature at night started dropping into the 40s. And a car is a metal box. Metal does not hold heat. I would wake up at 3 in the morning shaking, with the windows fogged white on the inside from my own breath. And I knew, the way you know a hard truth, that the car was going to try to kill me before winter was over. I could not idle the engine all night. I did the math on a napkin. Running that engine for warmth would burn through nearly $40 of gas a week, and that was money I needed for food. And carbon monoxide from idling in a closed space kills people every single winter. I read that it does not take much. A cracked exhaust, a little snow around the tailpipe, and you go to sleep and you do not wake up. So I had a choice. Freeze, go broke, idling, or get out of the car. And getting out of the car with $11 sounds impossible. It sounds like a joke. But this is exactly where the climb really started. And this is the part I most want you to hear. I could not afford a place, but I could afford to get warm inside the car. And staying alive through that first cold snap bought me the time to figure out everything else. So let me give you the exact things I did, because they are cheap and they are real and they work. The first thing I bought was a cheap roll of that foil-faced foam insulation board, the kind used behind radiators, from a hardware store clearance bin. $9. I cut it to the shape of every window with a box cutter, and I wedged the pieces into the windows at night. That one change, $9 of reflective foam, and my body heat stopped escaping through the glass and stopped fogging up the car. The reflective side bounces your own warmth back at you. I stopped waking up in a cold sweat box. I did not fully understand the science then, but I understood that I was warmer, and warmer meant alive. Then I did something that felt ridiculous until it saved me. I bought a terracotta plant pot from a thrift store for $1 and a small pack of tea light candles. Now, I want to be very careful here, because open flame in a car is dangerous, and I only ever did this while I was awake and the window was cracked for air. But a couple of small candles under an inverted clay pot throws a surprising amount of gentle, radiant heat into a tiny space. It is not magic, it will not heat a house, but in a car, on a cold evening while you are awake and reading, it takes the murderous edge off the cold for the price of pennies. And the last thing was the one that mattered most, and it cost me nothing at all because I got it from a donation bin outside a church. A 0-degree rated sleeping bag. Somebody had thrown out a real cold weather mummy bag because it had a broken zipper. A broken zipper. I safety pinned that zipper shut, climbed inside with a wool hat, and for the first time in weeks, I was not cold. The bag was rated for temperatures far below anything I was facing. The zipper did not matter. Somebody's trash was the difference between me shaking all night and me sleeping. So there is your first free rung. Reflective foam in the windows, a wool hat, and a real cold-rated sleeping bag from a donation bin. You could do all of it this week for under $10, and honestly, you could do it for nothing if you are patient with the donation bins the way I learned to be. But I knew a car was still a dead end, and here is where I have to tell you about the people who make money keeping you exactly where I was. Because once you have no address, a whole machine turns against you. You cannot get most jobs without an address. You cannot open certain accounts without an address. And the payday lenders, the ones with the glowing signs in every poor part of every town, they smell someone drowning and they throw you an anchor and call it a rope. I almost took one. I sat in the parking lot of one of those places and I did the math on what they were charging. When you turn their fees into a real yearly interest rate, it came out to nearly 400%. 400%. That is not a loan. That is a trap with a friendly cashier. And I want to say this plainly because someone watching needs to hear it. I wrote all of this down, every rung, every mistake, every trick with foam and caulk and freeland in a book called First Shelter, and it is linked in the description below for $97. It is everything I wish someone had handed me through that car window, laid out step by step, so you do not have to figure it out alone in the dark the way I did. If you are in the middle of this right now, or you feel the ground starting to shift under you, that book was written for exactly where you are standing. Now, back to what I was telling you about the system and why understanding it changed everything about how I moved through it. The system is not broken. It is working exactly the way it was built to work. There is money in keeping you one bad month from disaster. There is money in your panic. The moment I understood that, I stopped looking for rescue and I started looking for exits. And the difference between those two words is the difference between staying stuck and getting free. So I turned the car from a bedroom into a tool. I used it to get to day labor jobs. Cleaning, moving, standing in a parking lot at dawn hoping a truck would pick me up, and every dollar I made that I did not need for food or gas I hid. Not in a bank. In an envelope taped under the spare tire, because when you are that low, you protect your money like it is oxygen. It took me 9 weeks to save $400. 9 weeks of aching and hiding and eating a lot of rice cooked on a tiny camp stove. And $400 is not much, but $400 was the key to the next rung. And the next rung changed my life because I found out what you can buy for very little money if you stop looking for a house and start looking for shelter. I want to stop right here and talk directly to you, the person watching this who is thinking, that is fine for her, but I have nothing. I have no skills. I have no land. This could never be me. I need you to hear me. This next part is built for you specifically, not for people with savings, not for people with a family to fall back on, for the person watching this on a phone with a cracked screen thinking there is no way out. There is. Let me show you the exact thing I did, and I promise you it starts with almost nothing. I stopped searching for apartments and I started searching the free sections of online marketplaces and the classified boards. And I typed in words that most people never think to search: old camper, free trailer, must haul away, water damage. You see, there are people all over this country who have an old, ugly, leaking travel trailer or a broken down camper rotting in their backyard, and they want it gone. It is an eyesore. It might even be getting them fined by their town, and they will give it to you free, or nearly free, if you just come and take it away. I found a 1970s travel trailer, 17 feet long, sitting in a man's field. The inside smelled like mildew. The floor was soft in one corner. He wanted it gone before the county cited him. I paid him $75, and he even helped me tow it to a spot I had lined up. $75 for walls, for a roof, for a door that locked, for a real bed frame instead of a car seat. I sat in that mildewy trailer that first night, and I want to tell you, it was the richest I have ever felt in my life. I had a door, I could stand up. When it rained, and it did rain that first night, the sound was on a roof over my head and not on a windshield 6 inches from my face. But a free trailer comes with the exact problems that made it free. And this is where most people give up. So this is where I need you to pay the closest attention, because the fixes are cheaper than you think. The first problem was that soft floor, which meant water had been getting in. Water is the enemy of every shelter. Water rots wood, grows mold, and mold will make you sick in a closed space. I got down on my hands and knees with a flashlight, and I found where the roof seam was leaking. The fix for a leaking camper roof is a product that costs almost nothing and that every full-time RV person knows about. It is a self-leveling lap sealant, a white rubbery caulk made for exactly this, and one tube costs around $8. I ran a bead along every seam and every screw head and every edge on that roof. One afternoon of work, under $30 in sealant, and the leaking stopped completely. Then I dealt with the soft floor. I cut out the rotten section, and I did not have money for fancy lumber, so I used cut-down free wooden pallets. Pallets are everywhere. Businesses stack them behind their stores and beg people to take them. I broke them down, laid the boards, and screwed down a piece of cheap plywood over the top. The floor was solid again. Total cost, the price of a box of screws. And now I had to face winter in a metal and fiberglass box, which is barely warmer than the car was. So I insulated it the way poor and clever people have insulated things for 100 years. I stapled that same reflective foil foam over the windows I was not using. I got free foam packing sheets, the big kind, from a furniture store dumpster with permission, and I layered them behind the thin factory panels. And here is the trick that made the biggest difference, and it is almost free. Heavy curtains. I hung thick blankets from the donation bin across the middle of the trailer, cutting the space I had to heat down to just the sleeping end. You do not heat the whole shelter. You heat the smallest box you can stand to live in, and you seal yourself inside it. That principle, heat the person and the smallest space, not the building, is the single most important thing I learned about staying warm for free. For actual heat, I used a small propane heater made specifically for indoor tent and cabin use, the kind with a low oxygen sensor that shuts itself off if the air gets dangerous. That safety feature is not optional, because propane in enclosed spaces can kill you the same way an idling car can. I ran it carefully, with a vent cracked, and one green propane cylinder that cost under $5 would warm my little sealed sleeping end for several nights. I got through that first winter. 17 feet of 1970s trailer, sealed with $8 caulk, floored with free pallets, insulated with dumpster foam and donated blankets. And I did the arithmetic one night, sitting in the warm, and I realized that everything, the trailer, the sealant, the screws, the foam, the heater, all of it together had cost me less than $400. Less than 1 month of the rent I could no longer pay, and nobody had given me permission, nobody had approved me, nobody had checked my credit. I had simply refused to stay in the car, and I had found the thing that other people threw away. But I have to be honest with you about what came next, because it was the scariest part, and it is the part that finally taught me the real secret. The problem with a free trailer is that you have to put it somewhere, and land is the thing they really make you pay for. I had been keeping it on the edge of that field with a quiet handshake deal, but the man sold the property, and suddenly I had a home with wheels and nowhere legal to point them. I was about to be homeless again, this time with a whole house to lose. I spent 2 weeks terrified, and then I found the answer, and it is the thing I most want to leave you with, because it is the rung that finally held. I discovered that all over rural America there is land sitting empty, and there are landowners who are quietly desperate for one specific thing: someone to keep an eye on the place. It is sometimes called land caretaking or a property sitting arrangement, and here is how it works. A person owns a few acres, maybe with an old barn, maybe a hunting parcel, maybe land they inherited and cannot tend. They do not live there. They worry about trespassers, dumping, theft, brush fires, and they will let you park your trailer and live on their land, for free or nearly free, in exchange for you simply being there, for being eyes on the property. I found my arrangement through a printed note I pinned to the board at a rural feed store, the kind of place where farmers buy seed and animal feed. My note said, "Quiet, responsible woman with her own small camper seeks a corner of land to keep watch over in exchange for rent." 9 words that saved my life. An older couple called me within a week. They had 40 acres, 2 hours out, an old orchard nobody picked anymore, and they were scared of people driving back there to dump trash and start fires. They said I could put my trailer at the top of the orchard. They said, "Just be here and let us know if anything looks wrong." They did not charge me rent, not $1. In exchange, I watched their land. I called them when a fence went down. I ran off the people who tried to dump old tires in the creek. I became the reason their property was safe. That is the secret finale. That is the thing almost nobody scrolling for off-grid videos ever hears. You do not need to buy land. You do not need to rent land. There are people with land who need you as much as you need them, and the whole exchange is built on the one thing you have plenty of, even when you have no money at all: your presence, your watchfulness, being there. A free camper somebody wanted hauled away, plus a free patch of land somebody needed watched, and suddenly a woman with $11.40 in a parking lot had a home and an address and no rent, and no bank, and no landlord doing math against her. I want to tell you what that orchard was like the first spring, because this is the memory I hold on to. The old apple trees that nobody had pruned in years still bloomed, white blossoms everywhere. And I would step out of my little sealed up trailer in the morning with a cup of coffee I made on the camp stove, and I would stand in the middle of 40 acres that were not mine but that I belonged to, and I would think about that receipt blowing on my windshield. $84. The whole distance between having a life and not having one. Except it turned out that distance was not money at all. It was knowing what other people throw away and having the nerve to go pick it up. Let me give you the whole ladder again quick, because I want you to be able to climb it. You start where you are, even if that is a car, and you get warm for under $10 with reflective foam in the windows and a cold-rated sleeping bag from a donation bin. You use free legal overnight parking to stop the panic and buy yourself sleep. You turn every spare dollar into a hidden envelope, and you do not let the 400% lenders touch you. Then you stop looking for a house, and you search the free listings for an old camper somebody needs hauled away. You seal its roof with $8 caulk. You fix its floor with free pallets. You insulate it with dumpster foam and donated blankets, and you heat the smallest space, not the whole box. And finally, you find your patch of land not by buying it, but by offering to watch over it. Every single rung on that ladder is something a person with almost no money can reach. I know, because I reached every one of them with hands that were shaking. I am not going to tell you it was easy. I was scared for most of a year. I got things wrong. I nearly took the payday loan. I nearly gave up the night the man sold the field. But I want you to understand the real thing I learned down there at the bottom, the thing that is worth more than any trick with foam or caulk. The people who looked down on me were wrong about me. They thought that not having a home meant I was less, but I was not less. I was resourceful in a way they will never have to be, and there is a strange, hard dignity in that, in looking at what the world discards and seeing a home in it. If you are watching this in a car right now, or in a room you are about to lose, I need you to hear me say it. You are not a problem to be avoided. You are the most resourceful person you know, and you are about to prove it. You are the kind of person who does not wait to be rescued and does not disappear quietly. You are the kind who picks up what the world threw away and builds a life out of it. That is who watches these stories all the way to the end. That is who you are. So tell me something, and I mean this, actually type it out. If you had to start tomorrow with only what you could carry, what is the first thing you would go looking for? The foam for the windows, the free camper, or the patch of land to watch over? And tell me where you are watching from, because I read these and there are more of us out here than anybody wants you to believe. Leave that comment. It matters more than you think, because the next person scrolling by, cold and scared in their car, needs to see that somebody else made it out. And if you want to climb the rest of the way with people who refuse to be written off, who are rebuilding a home and their dignity out of almost nothing, stay with me. Because the next story I am going to tell you is about the woman who showed me how to get running water and a hot shower off-grid for less than the cost of a single night in a motel. And I promise you, that one will change how you see every empty rain barrel you have ever walked past. I sat in a parking lot with $11.40, and I built a home out of what other people threw away. If I could do it, then you, right now, with whatever you have in your hands, you can start climbing too. I'm the one who lived every night in that story. This video was just the overview inside the shelter builders. I take you through the full build, every scavenged part, picking up right where I stopped. In there you can ask me your own question, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You're not alone. Folks like you are already inside. Just point your phone at the code. Cancel anytime, one click, no risk. Now, let me show you how I found my way back. In this next one, you'll see how I turned a simple shipping container into a warm, off-grid home of my own. It's starting right here